Greetings from Tokyo. This is Daisuke, and I'd like to take this opportunity to let you know about a really great podcast episode that I had the pleasure of listening to the other day. Now, the podcast show is called Criterion Now, and that's Criterion Now, and it's hosted by a really good guy whose name is Aaron. And the theme of the podcast show is the Criterion Collection. So there are new releases from the Criterion Collection and also Criterion-related news items. The latest episode that Aaron hosted had two guests on. One was Fritzi Kramer, and the other was Jill Blake. Now, these two guests were absolutely phenomenal because not only were they incredibly intelligent with respect to film and specific film subjects, the discussion of early Russian cinema came up, which was just mind-blowing to me. So not only are they incredibly intelligent, but they are so down-to-earth and very they're just so open and warm and welcoming, and it was such a pleasure to hear this discussion among the three of them, Aaron and his two guests. And they also were not shying away from any controversial topics. And as you may know, the issue of the future of streaming in the context of the Criterion Collection, and also in the context of the now no longer streaming service of Filmstruck, and also the future of streaming into next year with Warner Media and the Criterion Channel and the like. So there are some pretty complicated corporate-related issues at play here, and there are quite a number of them, and many of them are fairly nuanced. But this group, this episode, and the guests here did not shy away from any of the controversy or any of the delicate topics that could potentially come up. And they all talked about it in a very open manner, in a way that I thought it was very transparent, and also it was incredibly transparent, which is very healthy, and also it was, they gave plenty of room, and they were very fair to any opposing sides of any arguments that they were on. So it was a really lovely conversation to listen to, and it was one of the best podcast episodes that I've had the pleasure of listening to all year. So if you have the interest, I strongly recommend that you check out Criterion Now, and in particular this latest podcast episode. It's now the middle of December 2018, and so the episode is with Fritzi Kramer and Jill Blake. There have been some really great episodes in the past. Now, Criterion Now, as I said, is a Criterion-related podcast. And they and the podcast deals with, for example, there was a past episode about the Ingmar Bergman box set release. There's other podcasts, episodes about other Criterion releases and the like. So the show is actually a really it's a regular show in terms of its releases, and it has a lot of podcasts, and it's long, and they go through various topics. So it's a really worthwhile show. I urge you to check it out if you have the chance. So it's Criterion Now, and the latest episode as of the time of this video is the episode with Fritzi Kramer and Jill Blake, which is an absolutely fantastic episode. I strongly urge you to check it out if you have the time. I should say also that I've had the pleasure of being a guest on a couple episodes of Criterion Now. It was a real pleasure. Aaron was a very gracious host, and I will never forget it because this was the first time I had been featured on a podcast. So it was a real honor, and this just shows what a kind and generous host that Aaron is. But also, he has a very nice interview-like style, and that is very evident in the latest episode that he has with Fritzi and Jill. So I strongly urge you to check the episode out, even if it's for a little bit. There might be some interest, especially for those of you who are following the latest news items with respect to the streaming situation, any sort of post-mortem discussion or analysis with respect to Filmstruck, what happened there, the whole corporate angle, the Warner Media angle, and also with the AT&T influence, etc. So this is all coming into play, and it's not like this is all going to end. No. I mean, this sort of media corporate consideration will be ongoing. It's always been there, of course, but it's going to be ongoing, and so it's very important to keep up or try to get a handle in your own way as to what the situation is, especially if you are going to be directly affected as a consumer or as a potential consumer. So this is all to say that this is, I think, potentially very relevant for those of you who are following the streaming service news items and following that story. So for those of you in particular, I would strongly recommend checking out Criterion Now, the latest episode. All right, let me leave it at that. And so I hope that you are all doing very well and that you are happy and healthy during this month of December 2018. And that most importantly, that you are spending your time well and you are watching a lot of great movies. So until we meet again, my friends, cheers.